let's make these buttons work, everybody. So what we're going to have to do is add a script into our system, a JavaScript, which is going to have something in it called functions. So let's do that. Here's your empty game object that I had you insert just a minute ago. All you did to do that was just click game object, create empty, and it will create what's just an empty game object. It's in your hierarchy. It doesn't do anything in the game at this point. It doesn't have any functionality. And to give it functionality, we need to add a script. So click down here in your assets, click on create and JavaScript. Okay, we're going to call this JavaScript. I've done this several times, so I have to keep coming up with new names for it because I've had to remake the video a couple of times. So I really like to call it Page Turner, but we'll just call it, we'll just call it Pages. Or no, let's how about control the buttons. Okay, self-explanatory. Control the buttons. So right here, we'll double click on control the buttons, and that'll open up that JavaScript inside of Unity. Here it is. So this is a generic JavaScript that opens up every time. And JavaScript's always going to start with this hashtag pragma strict. So you leave that there. And then it creates two blank functions, the start function and the update function, which are a special kind of function in Unity that you use in most games. But for our purposes, because this is all user interface stuff, we don't need them. So I'm just going to delete that. Then I'm going to just paste in the script that we're going to type. Okay, function go to cabin. This is the function that will tell any button you attach it to go to the scene cabin. So the name of the function, I named it go to cabin so that it's easy to understand what the function does. Okay, it's the actual code that gets run when you call the function go to cabin is right here. Application load level cabin. It's going to, this application load level is the script that says load a level. And the way that you tell Unity which level to load is by placing the name of the level you want to load inside of these quotation marks in the parentheses. All of this syntax has to be here. Now, however many different buttons you have in the game, that's how many functions you're going to have to add to this script. Okay? So basically for each room, you'll have to have a function. But let me just show you how this function works right here. So function go to cabin, application load level cabin. That's there now. So let's save this. File, save. Now let's hop over to Unity. See if we have any errors. Not yet. Okay, so you're going to get this Unity engine application load level is obsolete. That's because they've updated Unity and there's a new like load scene manager that they've added to it, and the syntax is a little bit different. But depending on the version of Unity my students have, sometimes the new one won't work very well. So we're going to stick with this one for now because I know that this script works. And as these Unity iterations get further along, I'll probably change the syntax that I teach. But right now this works, so let's stick with it, okay? Click on the button that you want to add the function to, which at this point is cabin, right? Because the function is go to cabin. So you've done that, and is our script attached to game object? No, it's not. So actually, before we go to the button, we need to come over here and select game object in our hierarchy. Grab the control the button script. It's right here in your assets. Drag it over and drop it in the inspector on the empty game object. And see, now the control the button script shows up right there. So now that script has impact on the game if you call it or reference it. So click on now you can click on the cabin button. Okay, make sure that it's only the cabin button that's selected. If you look in the hierarchy, you can see that it's actually not the cabin button that's selected, it's the script inside of the button, so we don't want that. So click on in the hierarchy the actual go to cabin button. There it is. Now, when that's selected, you'll see all of this stuff right here, and you've interacted with this, right? This is how you made the normal color of the button green, and when it's highlighted purple. But if you go a little further down, you've got this on-click menu here. And it says runtime only right now, and then below that is none. So it's not referencing any objects. It's not using anything. So I want you to click on this target and select game object. Now game object should show up, and that means this game object is now referenced here. So you need to click on this next drop-down menu that says no function and find the script. Control the buttons. That's the name of the script we wrote, and there it is. Now it's going to list a bunch of different functions underneath of it. Many of these are generic functions that we didn't actually code into the script. They're just there. We're looking for the one we created that's called Go to Cabin, and there it is. So click Go to Cabin. Now, on click, this button will go to the script game that's attached to game object, and it will run go to cabin. Yeah, it will run the control the buttons go to cabin function. So you're set there. File save scene. Then just hit play. All right, so our buttons are changing color if you hover over them. Your text is there. Now let's click on this cabin button and see what happens. Yay, we went over to the cabin. Okay, so that means that button's working. So let's go ahead and hit play here. Now, you have to do this for every button. So let's do a second button. And I'm not going to do every single button in the game because I'm just trying to show you how to do it. But in each of the scenes you've created, you need to go to each button and make sure there's a function that will make that button perform its function. Okay? So next thing we want to do is go to the kitchen. We haven't actually made a scene for engine room yet, so we couldn't call that function right now if I try to demonstrate that, but we've got a kitchen scene. So let's go to the kitchen button. Click on that. Make sure that's all that's selected. Okay? And I don't like the way that this target is showing up over the text here, so I'm just going to click again and make sure that the only thing selected is that. Okay, so now we've selected that. I'm going to go over here and hit the plus sign. Just like that. Now it's going to allow me to make choices. So let's click on the target, go to game object, double click on that, go to the function drop down buttons, go to control the buttons, and oh, wait a minute, there's no go to kitchen function. We haven't coded that into our script yet. So let's go back over to our MonoDevelop. And all you got to do is copy and paste this little chunk of code, Command C or Control C, I think, on Windows computers, and then Control V to paste it. So it's still go to cabin. So let's call this go to what? Kitchen, because that's what that button's for. And inside of the quotation marks, we need to write kitchen exactly as it is in the level name, and it has a capital K. So we go K-I-T-C-H-E-N. Now that is there. File save. Always got to save the script or it won't have the new version. Go back over to Unity. You've got the kitchen button selected. You've already attached the game object to it. You're going to click here, control the buttons, go to kitchen, select that. Now that should work too. File save scene. Hit play. Let's click on kitchen. And now you're in the kitchen, okay? So the buttons work that way. Now, I haven't done anything to the buttons in the other scenes. You're going to have to do this to every button so that ultimately inside of your MonoDevelop script, there's going to be a whole bunch of these functions all the way down. But it's all in one script, okay? The other thing you need to keep in mind is that in Unity, when you start programming the buttons in the other scenes, okay, right now we are in the scene intro. When we want to program the buttons in kitchen, okay, look, the cabin script that we attached, that's not going to work yet. This is an individual button, even though it looks just like the button in the other scene. It's a whole different button because it's in a different scene, okay? So what you have to do is, and in this scene, you see you don't have that empty game object. So you got to do the same thing again for each scene. So you go game object, create empty. Then you select the game object. You take the JavaScript, and you drag and drop it onto that empty game object. Drop that on there. Now that's there. So then you have to select the cabin button. The one thing you can do, though, is because this button is directing to the cabin and you already have a function, go to cabin, you can just over here, go ahead and hit the plus sign, select game object. For this particular function, you're not going to have to program in another function in the script because you have already created a function that when run, it sends the game to the cabin. So all I got to do is go to the function, go to control the buttons, go to cabin, select that from the drop down menu, file save scene, play, select this button, and I go to the cabin. All right. If it's a new room, a new level that you are loading with the button, you've got to add that function in. So you'll have a function for every room that you need a button to go to, right? You don't have to do the functions twice, but you need to make sure you have that function for each thing. So that's all you need to know to get all your buttons working. So go through that and make sure all your buttons work. And in the next video, I'll show you how to add images to your text adventure.